Hello, my name is Katarzyna Osuch-Bukowska, and today I would like to focus on how to triumph in a behavioral interviews for managerial positions in engineering. I would like to dedicate this talk to all software engineers that at some point in time decided to change, or maybe are currently considering to change, their career path to leadership. Probably for many years you only had typical technical interviews that consist of coding tasks, some challenges related with architectural design, or other difficult technical questions. But in order to get a job as engineering manager, engineering director, team leader, you will have to pass a mysterious stage of the recruitment process known as the behavioral interview. Do you know what a behavioral interview is? Have you ever participated in this type of interviewing process? For those who don't know, behavioral-based interviewing consists of asking candidates very strange questions. For example, tell me about the time when you failed as engineering manager. And we will talk today a lot how to deal with those questions effectively. When I first time took part in the recruitment process for engineering manager position, it was a black box for me. I didn't know what to expect, I didn't know how to prepare, and of course I failed. Now, many years later, I developed my own strategy to deal with this type of challenges. And moreover, as Director of Engineering at FedEx DataWorks Poland, I'm also on the other side, recruiting engineering managers to my department. So I hope that learning from my mistakes, from my experience with increasing your chances of success in landing your dream job as team leader, engineering manager, or even head of engineering. So here we go. Few words about me. So for 10 years I was working as a developer, and then I changed my career path to leadership. And since the last 10 years, I have been building and running software development teams in various industries, like finance, sports betting, hospitality, and more recently, transportation. I have worked in corporate and startup environments, so I'm very flexible in my approach. And so far, I have had 4 different managerial positions in 4 different companies that might suggest that I successfully passed some behavioral interviews. Why I'm doing this presentation? Because I observed that there are a lot of books, articles, talks about what leadership is, how to be a good leader, but not so many, and in fact, much less about how to actually get there, how to land a leadership position. And this is not a piece of cake, especially for a software engineer with no experience with leadership. But even for experienced candidates, it's still very difficult because competition on the market is still very high. Statistically speaking, we have much fewer potential job offers for IT leader than we have, for example, for Java developer. So it's still worth being well prepared. From my experience, I encountered the following types of interviews for engineering leadership position. The first type of interview is a behavioral interview, so this is the main topic of our speech today. The other type is a stress interview. In fact, this is a subtype of a behavioral interview. I participated in this type of interview only once. So it's, from my experience at least, not so very typical. Basically, during stress interview, your interviewer will intentionally create very uncomfortable, very stressful situation to check how you deal with stress. There are some debates whether this type of interview is ethical. Some people say, well, this is the best way to check in action how candidates handles difficult, uncomfortable, stressful situations, while other people say, well, it creates from the beginning very unhealthy relation between a company and a potential candidate. And that was my case because although I passed the interview, I rejected the offer. And the last type is presentation. From my experience, this type of interviewing is typical for higher positions in engineering management. So usually you've got time to prepare a presentation about strategy you implemented or project you did, and during an interview you have a fixed time to deliver this presentation. And you have questions based on what you spoke about. So if you are ambitious, you would like to reach that high, then invest in your presentation skills. Probably the best idea is to participate in some conferences as a speaker. There are for sure many other types of interviewing. I only listed those that I encountered. And I would like to speak today only about behavioral interview because this is a must. If you are thinking about going through the leadership part. Okay. Why behavioral interviews are so stressful for IT people? Because we invested many times in improving our technical skills, our programming skills, and yet now being fined, asked questions from completely different zone. Question like, for example, tell me about the time when you demonstrated your leadership skills. Might seem awkward, but if you understand why this question is being asked, it would be easier for you to deal with it during an interview. Basically, in this example, could you tell me about a time when you demonstrated your leadership skills? Your potential hiring manager would like to understand what type of leadership you will bring to his company. And the best way to assess that is to ask you how he acted in the past. So behavioral-based interviewing is focusing on candidates' past experiences, skills, abilities, but asking a candidate to provide a certain example when he demonstrated those skills, abilities in the past, and assess based on that his future performance and behavior. So in other words, past behavior equals future behavior. That's why it's so important during a behavioral interview to support your answers with examples, not provide only generic answers, but concrete examples, how you acted, what you did. So let's go through some typical behavioral interviews. I provide you some typical behavioral questions. I provide you some examples. Just quickly, let's go through it. The first one, describe a tough decision you had to make on tech project. What factors did you consider and what was the outcome? So this is a question that is going to assess your decision-making skills, how you make a decision process. Another example, tell me about the time when you were unable to achieve a goal as an engineering manager. Tricky one. But don't be afraid of such question. I will give you an example how to deal with it. This question is not as much about your failures, but rather about how you can draw conclusions from past mistakes, apply lessons learned, and move forward. Another example. Can you tell me about the time when a project deadline changed suddenly? How did you adjust your plans? Typical question about time management, about task prioritization. How do you manage your engineering team's career growth? Fantastic question about what is your potential in motivating others, supporting them on their career path. Tell me about the time when you went above and beyond. It's about your achievements, about your successes. Great question. And finally, how do you handle conflict in your engineering team? Another example of question assessing your ability to manage conflicts. So, as you could see, those questions touches different areas. Sometimes it's about your decision-making process, sometimes how you are able to speak openly about your mistakes, how you handle conflict. So there are different areas touched by those questions. And please also note that those questions are not always asked in that form I'm providing here, because they are very direct. Sometimes you, during a very casual discussion about your career, your interviewer, your potential new manager could ask you a question, well, I see that you were responsible for few projects at ABC company. How do you handle that? This is indirect question, how you are able to deal with task prioritization, with time management. So be prepared, be also prepared to provide an examples, because here I'm openly asking for an example. Tell me about the time. But even if you don't have this question in so direct form, it's always the best way to support your question with an example. And that's my remark regarding that, so that you should consider that those questions are not always asked directly. Okay, so how to prepare for a behavioral interview? We already said that you should be aware about some areas that will be touched during those interviews. So try to start your preparations with looking back over your career. There are for sure some projects you are very proud of, some people you disagreed with, some decisions you made, some technical decisions that influence the progress of the project. So try to find at least one or two examples from the following areas. I provide here some common areas. It all depends on the job you are applying for. But I would say that this is some the most common. So you should be prepared to talk about your biggest success, at least 1-2 examples, failures, supporting others in their growth, conflict resolution, tough decision, tough deadline. Just I would say this is a must to be able to handle during an interview if you are going to pass it. And few remarks when you will be preparing your examples. First of all, try to find those who required the most of you, the most of your involvement, like your assertiveness, your creativity, your influencing skills. Try to make those examples up to date. So, for example, providing as your biggest success a project that happened 10 years ago might lead to questions what happened with your career after that so long ago success. Try to support your answers with examples that will, with numbers that will highlight the scale of challenges you went through. So, for example, duration of the project budget, number of users, number of people reporting to you, any numbers that will be supporting you with highlighting the scale. This is also very, very important. Try to make prepare stories that will respond to job requirements. So, for example, if there is a requirement to know, I don't know, AWS, some cloud technology, and you participated in a successful migration to cloud, providing this example as your biggest success, I think this is a good way, a good strategy. So try to always, while preparing examples, make them responding to the job requirement. Another remark: don't shy away from questions about your mistakes. I already said that this is not as much about your mistakes, but about how are you able to draw conclusions from past experiences, move forward, apply lessons learned. And remember that only people who do nothing make no mistakes. So be brave and just answer the question instead of avoiding it, because telling that your interviewer that you have never made a mistake. That would be maybe strange. We all make mistakes. This is nothing to be afraid of. The goal is just to learn from it and apply changes. Another important thing I would like to mention that on internet you could find many answers to such questions. Please do not try to adjust your answers to those examples, because you will lose chances of showing who you really are. So the best advice I could give you is to just be authentic and be honest with your answers. Okay, and also at the very end of the interview there is a time for asking questions, and be prepared also to ask questions, because this is a potential moment for you to discuss your qualifications even further. So strategically it's another opportunity for you to provide additional examples of your, when you demonstrated certain qualifications. But what if you are a beginner? You are a software engineer and you are applying for a leadership position for the first time. I think that you still can showcase your leadership potential if you don't have yet a leadership position. And remember that leadership is an action, not a position. So maybe you participated in the interviewing process or together with your line manager supporting his decision process. Maybe you convince your team to follow a particular technical solution. Maybe you were a mentor or a buddy for a new joiner. There are very good examples that will highlight your leadership potential. And it's also very good to review your examples with your colleagues, with your mentors. Knowing you as well as they do, it's most likely they will provide some additional examples, additional stories that will highlight your potential. And if you are really struggling with finding good example and you are a beginner, I think this is acceptable in such case to provide examples outside workplace. For example, if you are a software engineer, you have no leadership position, but you are a diving instructor. Great example to provide as for example, while dealing with questions regarding stress management and leadership. So examples outside work, at least from my opinion, are acceptable when candidates really struggle finding appropriate stories from a workplace, and this is his first interview. This is his first interview. Okay, so we look through our professional career. We find some stories that will highlight our decision-making process, how we are good at supporting others, but how to speak about those stories during an interview. Well, be concrete and be precise. Avoid watery speaking style, and instead try to stick to the facts. And remember, less is more. Less is more. And there is a fantastic technique to sharing your stories. This technique is called STAR technique, and it provides a format that would help you to structure your story. STAR stands for situation, task, action, and result. So, for example, if you received a question, tell me about a time when you went above and beyond. In situation part of your story, you will set the scene and give all necessary details of your example. In the task part of your story, you will describe your responsibility in that particular situation. In the action part, you will explain exactly what steps you did to address this challenge, and the result part, what was the outcome of your actions. I prepared for you some examples because theory is great, but it's only theory. So let's go through some examples, and please note that any similarity with real events, real people are completely coincidental in those examples. Okay, here we go. How do you help others' growth? A great question, and you could start, for example, like this. Well, it was always very important for me to support others in their growth and share my experience. That's why in 2020, I signed up as a mentor for a mentoring program at our company XYZ. I was paired with Anna, a senior software engineer who wanted to become a software development team leader. We set the scene. Task. Our goal was to support Anna for 6 months on her way to internal promotion as a team leader at XYZ. Clear, precise, to the point. That was your task. Support Anna in her growth. And the most essential part, your actions. Because I said leadership is an action, not a decision. So this is an essential part of your story when you will be highlighting your actions. Because it's not about providing a general story. It's about you, what you bring to the company, what you did. So in the action part, we created a mentoring agreement to adjust our expectations. We prepared Anna's strategies for discussing annual performance results and future career goals with her line manager. We also touched on many leadership topics, such as providing effective one-on-one meetings or dealing with different types of personality types or effective cooperation with various stakeholders. I advise Anna various leadership books, for example, How to Become an Effective Engineering Manager, and training courses, for example, First Time Manager. I highlighted in green this part of your story that is highlighting your actions. In this part, it was a mentoring, so it was combined activity. So we created, we prepared, we touched on. I advise Anna, you are highlighting your actions. And finally, result, following our 6-month mentorship, Anna now leads a team of 5 mobile software developers. The end. You achieved result. Your mentee is now a leader, nothing to add. And this is very short example, easy to follow, avoiding watery speaking style. You are highlighting what exactly you did, and there is no need to add more. Remember, while answering behavioral question, less is more. And for example, if your potential manager would like to ask you about what was your strategy for discussing annual performance, he would like to ask some follow-up questions, you will just answer this again using STAR technique. So if your interviewer would like to know more, he will just ask follow-up questions. But in this example, this is quick, easy to follow, essential, and to the point. Another example. How do you meet tough deadlines? So in the situational part, we are setting the scene. I joined XYZ as the new development manager of 6 development teams. They were implementing a new cloud-based transaction processing system, and up to this point, they failed to deliver the agreed go-to-market roadmap and missed the first deadline. Oops, we set the scene. Now, we are describing our task. My task was to ensure that the second agreed deadline would be met and our system would go to production in 6 months. Clear, precise, project already missed first deadline, you are new manager, your goal is to don't miss the second deadline. Okay, and the essential part. I checked capacity of my 6 development teams and we estimated the entire roadmap. I realized that the rough effort estimate of the roadmap was twice the team's capacity. I documented my findings and presented them to the Director of Engineering and the Director of Product. I convinced Product Director to remove less priority epics. So again, we are highlighting here your actions. I checked, we estimated, I realized, I documented, I convinced. This is about you, your actions. You are applying for a leadership position. So we would like to know what type of leadership you we will bring to the company, what could we expect from you, what potential you have. So this is an essential part. And result, we managed to deliver the agreed functionalities on time and launch our system for free pilot customers. Our application is currently used by around 100 companies around the world. Success story at the very end. And the last example. Tell me about the time when you failed or make a mistake. I already said don't be afraid of such questions. So here we go. We are setting the scene. During my time at XYZ company, my engineering team resolved a production incident in time that exceeded our agreed SLAs. Oops. So, task. I took responsibility for the disaster recovery timeout and finding its root cause. So you are emphasizing here that you are not running away from this mistake. You are taking the responsibility. You are going now to apply some lessons learned. And action part, the most essential. I organize a retrospective meeting with my teams. We have learned that our login standards need to be updated. I involved principal SRE engineer to our discussion, who helped us revise and define the correct approach. I asked my teams to be compliant with the logging standards. And again, I organize, we have learned, I involved, I asked, you are highlighting your actions. And result, after improving and standardizing our approach to logging, we no longer had any delays in remediating production incidents. So, okay, yes, this was a mistake at the beginning, but you took responsibility, you applied actions, and now it's done, its problem is resolved. So don't be afraid of such questions. So let's summarize tips how to speak about your stories. So as you notice, I didn't write here the whole script. I just in the bullet points highlight the most important topics that I would like to speak about during an interview. It's very important to keep your stories short, so up to 1 minute. It should be easy for your interviewer to follow those stories. Otherwise, he will lose concentration if you provide so many details, too many digressions, and so on. It has to be short, precise, concrete, to the point. We are software engineers, so we used to write very. It's like writing a program, just concrete, precise, to the point. The next useful tip: please review the competences required for the job you are applying for, and try to have stories that will match those requirements. They will be your selling points. And practice your stories out loud. And I would like to, at this point, talk about self-promotion, because it is very important to have a proper mindset when you are applying for a leadership position. I know that self-promotion might cause some allergic reaction in people, and believe me, I was afraid of self-promotion, and it was difficult for me at the beginning. But I strongly believe that there are no shortcuts here. If you are thinking about following leadership path, you will have to learn how to do it. Because if you are not going to promote yourself, who is going to do it for you? If you are not going to promote yourself, so how are you going to promote your team, your projects, your ideas? You just have to learn how to do it. But I will share with you a book that helped me. It's called Power Your Career, The Art of Tactful Self-Promotion at Work. So this book is not dedicated to behavioral interviewing. In fact, only one chapter is dedicated to it. But this book touches in the broader context the topic of self-promotion. This book helped me a lot how to show myself off at work. So I fully advise you this book if you think that self-promotion is a strange idea, or you don't want to have nothing to do with it, or you are looking for some tactics how to present your ideas at work. So let's summarize the key takeaways from our today's session. We said that behavioral interviews are typical interviews for leadership positions, and this type of interview is focused on the candidate's past behaviors, experiences, skills, knowledge, abilities, by asking the candidate to provide a concrete example when he demonstrated these skills in the past, and based on those examples, assess how he might behave in the future. We said that the good way to speak about your stories is using STAR technique, and STAR stands for situation, task, action, and result. This is also very good technique also to not only to be used during an interviews, but also during everyday situations at work. If you would like to, in a very concrete way, present a situation. Please do avoid watery speaking style, be concrete, precise. Remember, less is more. Try to be a little more familiar with self-promotion. It won't hurt you. And finally, practice, 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 and don't give up. Even if you didn't pass the interview process, try to review this discussion, try to find any areas for improvement. And remember, sometimes it's not about how you answer those questions. It's sometimes companies are looking for a particular personality type, for a person that has particular experience in certain industry or with certain technology. So don't give up. Participate in as many behavioral interviews as you can, gain the experience, apply improvements, and I hope that using this strategy, you will land your dream job, and there will be a perfect match for you and for your future employer. Thank you. I will check now some questions on the Slido. First question, what should we answer if we have now encountered the situation in the past? For example, conflict with a teammate. It is okay to say, I have not seen this in the past. Absolutely. You have to be honest, because otherwise it will be visible that you are making some stories. In that situation, I would just very openly say that I never experienced such situation, and provide some hypothetical solution. So I would say something like this: well, I've never experienced a conflict with a teammate, but if there will be such situation, I probably would do this, blah, blah, blah. Be honest. My most awkward question was, I was asked while being interviewed, what are, in your opinion, pros and cons of working in a team? How to deal with such a question? Basically, this is a question to assess if you are rather an individualist or a team player. So it depends what you are applying. You mean this is a question to assess if you are a team person or rather an individualist. Again, honest because it's visible. It's visible for people that you are faking something. Really, believe me. It's always best to be honest, but strategically, if you're applying for a leadership position and you ask that you provide more cons of working in a team, there are rather low chances that you got the job. But that's how it is. Becoming a manager means you code less and less. Can this be a problem? Yes and no. For me, I code less, but I discovered so many different areas that are important, so many levels of leadership and things that I need to improve or learn that are not related with technology, that it's still being very, very motivating for me. But if somebody loves coding, then probably moving leadership path would be very problematic. But with leadership, it's just if you feel it that you would like to work with people and learn more about some additional aspects like, I don't know, public speaking, budgeting, negotiating, or even I was most recently preparing an employer branding strategy. So there are so many different areas for you to encounter on managerial path, and if you are open for it, then it won't be problematic. Example on the tough question asked indirectly. Oh, it's very difficult for me to find an example. Maybe I will try to think about it, and if somebody could write to me later on, because it's very difficult for me to answer this question. I have a tough question asked very directly. Do you know what was the question? If I'm married. I've got such question. Believe me, it shouldn't happen, but it was asked directly. What's waterfall type of speech that you set to avoid? When you are providing too many details, that your interviewer is losing the main thread. If you are making too many digressions, if you are speaking for, I don't know, 5 minutes, and it's difficult to follow this story. It's very difficult to figure out what exactly your actions were. Sometimes people are speaking in a very generic form about a project and not about him, about his or her actions. So that's how I would answer this question. Long, too many details, too many digressions, difficult to follow. It's like writing a program. It has to be, I forgot the word. It's better to say, I don't know the answer, or it's better to try think of the question. Is it annoying for them? I think I would start with, I don't know the answer, but if I would be hypothetically in such situation, I would do this and that. Again, leadership is about people. It's about emotions. So if you are faking something, probably your interviewer is even much more skilled in this interpersonal skills as you because of higher experience, right? So he probably is reading your emotions. So you are faking, he probably knew it. So don't fake anything. Be honest. The worst that could happen, you won't get the job, but you could find another one. So be honest. How to react if they ask you two personal questions? You shouldn't, this is against the law to ask too personal questions. And the best way is just to don't move forward with this particular recruitment process. You remember I said that once I was asked a question, if I'm married, if I have babies, blah, blah, blah. I completely ignored this question because all the other interview went great. Salary, amazing. Project, wow. I accepted the offer. 1 year later, I was looking for another job. So don't even consider this particular job offer if somebody is asking you two personal questions, and move to HR with this. Believe me, I made this mistake, and 1 year later, I was looking for a new job. Some good example of question to interviewer. For example, what are your biggest challenges this year, and how my role will help to overcome it or support this? So in this question, you are for the first you are understanding challenges of the business, challenges of your potential manager, and at the same time, and how my role will help to address them. You are showing that you are interested in the job, that you would like to know how you would like to support those challenges. So that's an example of the question to interviewer. Okay, I think there are no more questions. Thank you very much and good luck on your behavioral interviews.